Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Christine. I am mummy to 2 children. I have my son who is 2 years old and my daughter Annie who is not quite 6 months old, but she's almost there. Today I am bringing to you the topic of motherhood and sacrifice. That is our theme for the month of April. If you have not seen any of my themed videos for this month, then I'm going to go ahead and link Martyr's theme up in the cards here so you can get caught up on that. But today we're talking about motherhood and sacrifice, specifically how motherhood does not equal martyrdom. And if you don't know what that word means, it means a martyr is somebody who sacrifices their life for somebody else. So there might be some differing opinions here, but I want to share my thoughts on the subject. So stick around if you're interested. This is a subject that I am fairly passionate about. So I have honed myself in, written down some bullet points to try and keep myself on track. But yeah, I don't think it's healthy for a mother to sacrifice everything for her children. And on like the surface, that probably sounds really controversial, but I think when I talk about get into the points, you'll understand where I'm coming from. So the first reason is because motherhood is a relationship. And as I'm sure most of you will agree with, any relationship is a balancing act. And if one person in the relationship is really struggling and not happy, then eventually it is going to impact on the other person. And it is exactly like that in motherhood. If you are struggling as a mum, if you're not taking care of yourself, if your health is not good, if your mental health is not good, then your child will ultimately be the one to feel the effects of that. It's just life, that's how it is. And therefore, if you're not taking care of yourself, well, it's not the best thing for your kids. And so you kind of need to evaluate your parenting decisions based on that, which is hard because today in society, there's a huge undercurrent, this tone, especially on social media, that you're supposed to be this sacrificing goddess of motherhood. I mean, it's just everywhere at the moment, and it irks me because it ultimately is very destroying, and it makes mums feel like they're not good enough, and because they made this decision, then they're not a good mum, and that's just not the truth. Ultimately, we need to make decisions based on what is best for our family. And as a nurse, I was taught to look at a person holistically, so you're not just looking at the health issue. So for instance, in motherhood, you can look at breastfeeding and say, yes, breastfeeding your child is probably the best thing for them nutritionally. I know that's not always the case, but I'm going to say in the vast majority it is the case. However, if you are really struggling as a mum, if your mental health is struggling, if your health, your physical health is struggling, if your marriage is struggling, then holistically, it's probably not actually the best thing for your child, because they need a stable relationship between mum and dad. They need a mother who's healthy and not anxious and depressed. You've got to look at the whole picture. And so that's why I say it's a relationship, and one person is going to affect the other person long term. So keep that in mind. The next point I have is you are an example to your children, and that is being made more and more obvious to me as the days go on, and my 2-year-old just copies everything that I do. He watches and he wants to copy. He wants to copy dad, he wants to copy nana, he wants to copy grandpa. Everybody who he is watching, he is soaking and learning and absorbing all of those things, and it's the example that's set for him, and he wants to please, and he wants to gain our approval, I suppose. And so I've got to be very, very aware that if I'm not taking care of myself and I'm not showing him the proper way to take care of himself, then he probably won't do that either. And so if you're sacrificing everything as a mum, and that means that you're neglecting yourself in the most fundamental ways, then that is not a great example to set for your children. There's that old saying about you're not going to be able to help the person next to you until you put your own oxygen mask on first. That could not be more true than it is in motherhood. So bear in mind, they're watching you. Make sure that you're giving them a healthy example of how to look after yourself. The next point is kind of an obvious one, but it's your mental health. I wish we viewed mental health the same as we do physical health, because we think about diabetes and heart issues and things like that, and we think, yes, those can be prevented in a lot of cases, and even if you do end up getting them, they can be managed. Mental health is the same. If we took better care of ourselves to begin with, then we may be able to prevent those mental illnesses like before they even begin. And I know that's not the case in all areas, but I have seen it be the case, and I've seen women get burnt out, and it's not a good thing to see. It's heartbreaking, and it affects the entire family. And oftentimes it's like right at the bottom of the cliff where they've developed awful physical ailments as a result of mental health ailments that could have been prevented if they'd been taking better care of themselves, and if people had been allowing them to do so. So be very mindful of that. You cannot keep going on empty. You will burn out, and ultimately your mental and physical health will pay a price, and that will be a huge impact on your family. So again, you need to make your parenting decisions based on that, okay? Don't let yourself get to that point. It's just not good for you. And don't let society make you feel guilty if certain things are not beneficial to your family. You know, don't make your decisions based on society's influence. Make them based on what you know in your heart of hearts to be best for your family. The next point is quite a personal point for me because it is to do with my faith, but I also think you can see it in a broader aspect. So I read a wonderful blog post the other day that really just hit a point I had never heard before, and it was saying that we cannot meet all of our children's physical, mental, spiritual, all the needs. We just can't. We're not capable of doing that. And we shouldn't be capable of doing that, because if we were, then they would never have a need to seek God out, because we'd be filling everything, and they wouldn't have that need. And so for me as a mom, I want my children to seek God out. I want them to want a relationship with Him. And so I don't want to fill in all the holes, if that makes sense. It doesn't mean obviously that I'm neglecting my children, but you know, you get the gist. And that took a lot of guilt away from me, because I felt like, okay, yeah, that's a good thing. They need to be seeking Him. And if you see that in a broader sense, it also helps your children to become individuals, independent. And obviously this happens more and more as they get older. A tiny little baby is only so independent, you know, they really, really rely on you when they're that little. But as your children get older, absolutely, they can grow as individuals and thrive if they are learning to seek out something that fills those needs. So, yeah, sacrificing all for your children doesn't necessarily set them up for the best success in life. And lastly, and probably one of the biggest points they have to make, is this: there seems to be this competition out there at the moment as to who's doing it the hardest. My kid sleeps only like 1 hour at a time, and they've been doing that for 9 months. I just have a difficult child who never listens to me. My house is a total tip, and I'm living in a wreck all the time. You know, it's not a competition, mums. It really is not a competition. We're all on this motherhood journey, and it's an individual journey. And sure, our paths cross, and they sync, and they collide. And at those times, we should be encouraging one another, not comparing ourselves, and not competing with one another. You know, everyone's different. Everyone has different circumstances. Everyone has different situations. And it's totally right to say it's not our place to judge. We do not know the whole story. You know, there might be a mum who gives up breastfeeding not because her baby's not doing well, but because she's filled with anxiety and she's struggling so much. You just don't have the right to judge that mother. You just don't. There are some parents who choose to co-sleep despite the fact that they're not getting much sleep. Guess what? It's not your kid, it's not your family. You don't have the right to judge. Let them do what they want to do. My point is, in this whole video, is just don't let yourself be influenced by what other people are doing. Stick to what's important. Focus on your family, focus on yourself, and what is going to set your kids up for success, because that is the most important. Motherhood does not equal martyrdom. There should be no guilt in taking time out for yourself and making sure that you are healthy and in a good state to be a good mother to your children. Don't feel any guilt for doing that. Honestly, be kind to yourself and make sure you're taking care of yourself. That is all I have to say in this video. If you did enjoy it and it was an encouragement to you, please hit the thumbs up button. Tell me in the comments, do you struggle with this? Do you struggle by worrying what people think? yeah, what are your thoughts on the subject? I'd love to know in the comments below. If you want to keep up to date with my videos, please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you along. And check out my blog. It will be linked at the end of this video. I've got additional content there for you all. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!